also a number of delegations to our advice surgery. So thank you to everyone who's taken the time to visit their MP and explain what happened 13 years ago. Because MPs do need to be educated, they do need to know exactly what happened, and they need to understand. So on behalf of David Lammy MP, I have a few very short remarks to make to add to what Sen has outlined. It's a real privilege to be here to remember the 16th of May with you all. Particularly lovely to see so many children and young people gathering with families to remember. And that is what this Parliament is for. It is your Parliament, particularly our youngsters and our children. So thank you so much for bringing children and young people in tonight. And thank you again to Sen for all the tireless campaigning on behalf of Tamils for Labour and for continuing to remind us as Labour MPs of our duty to remember the tens of thousands of Tamils who were killed in the final months of that brutal and devastating civil war some 13 years ago. The scale of the tragedy cannot be understated, nor should it be forgotten. In the final months of that bloody war, it's believed between 40 and 70,000 civilians lost their lives, and many more were disappeared, never to be seen again, which is just as painful not to know exactly what did happen. I want to take the opportunity tonight to reaffirm Labour's commitment to speak up for human rights in Sri Lanka, the importance of accountability, and for long-lasting peace and reconciliation and justice. It's simply outrageous that after more than a decade since the end of that conflict, so few people have been held accountable for those criminal actions. It's outrageous how little progress has been made, and the search for justice remains so elusive. And it's simply outrageous that not one of the individuals identified by the United Nations as emblematic has been successfully prosecuted. It's outrageous that one of the only members of the military found to have murdered a Tamil was subsequently pardoned. One. And it's perfectly understandable that the British Tamil community is deeply frustrated by the lack of accountability which we've seen. And let me tell you, these are frustrations that we in the Shadow Foreign Team feel too, and it's a frustration shared across our Labour movement. The Labour Party has a proud tradition of calling out injustice, and we put democracy, human rights and the rule of law at the heart of everything we do, whether it be at home or abroad. These are the fundamental tenets of our movement, and our commitment to them is steadfast. That is why we recognise the way the Sri Lankan government has sought to evade accountability and delay scrutiny. That's why we call it out as being unacceptable, and we will continue to call it out wherever and whenever we can. As Sen has said, that is why Labour in March last year pushed for a strong United Nations Human Rights Council resolution, which included an international independent investigative mechanism and for referring cases to the International Criminal Court. That is the way to go. It's also why we've consistently called on the government to sanction those suspected of committed atrocities. If the American government can do it, why can the British government not do so as well? In Labour, we believe that the justice delayed is justice denied, and we recognise the painful long journey the community has been on in the search for accountability. But let me assure you that the Labour front bench, Keir Starmer, David Lammy and the Labour movement will continue to support the Tamil community, demanding accountability and working towards peace and reconciliation. You have our solidarity now and for as long as it takes until justice is secured.